Welcome to the Jack Mountain Bushcraft Podcast, episode 47.
Welcome to the Jack Mountain Bushcraft Podcast with your host, Jack Mountain Bushcraft School founder and Master Main Guide, Tim Smith.
I'm your host, Tim Smith. I'm a registered Master Main Guide, and in 1999 I founded the Jack Mountain Bushcraft School. We help people become more skilled, more knowledgeable, more experienced, and more confident outdoors by using traditional skills, a few simple tools, and field-based experience. Whether you're looking to go from city slicker to competent outdoor professional, want to experience a remote expedition, or just want to learn a few new outdoor skills, we've got you covered. You can check out the show notes to this and all of our podcasts at blog.jackmtn.com. When you're there, click on the podcast button. And if you enjoy the show, please leave us a review on iTunes. Lastly, the best way to keep up with our programs and trips is to join our email newsletter, and you can do that at jmbnews.com. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Jack Mountain Bushcraft Podcast. We're up to episode 47. Had you asked me when we started this, I thought we would never get past episode 3 before we threw in the towel, so yeah, weird that it's gone on this long. So I am joined in the Guide Shack this morning, a beautiful Saturday morning, with Christopher, as per usual. We've got Allison from last week, and we are also joined by another person who's attending the fall semester. We've got Regina Beach. So how is everyone this morning? Fully caffeinated?
Great, yeah. Thanks for having me on the show. Coffee's great. The weather's gorgeous. It's a lovely fall day in Maine.
Too early to tell.
Too early to tell.
Yeah.
So we just wrapped up week 2 of the fall semester. Busy. We've got a whole bunch of people going for the journeyman certification, so we're actively churning through workbooks, doing background research on fish and mammals and plants, and making bow drill sets, swinging axes, the whole 9 yards. Week 2, we just... now we're really into the thick of things. So all the sort of slow, choppy bits that you always start a long course with, they're kind of gone now. And now we're sort of into the routine. Everything's kind of fluid and everybody is just performing and working away. So we're super excited about that. We haven't had any big dust-ups yet. Nobody's murdered anybody else or anything like that. Not yet, anyway.
Not that we've told you about.
Not that right. So, of course, once again, clearly, yeah. I'm oblivious to the obvious.
Yeah. You didn't notice we had 10 students at the start of the semester? And we have 9 now?
No, I can only count to 6.
That doesn't... What?
Yeah.
Okay.
Doesn't make any sense, right?
Yeah, I would figure with 10 fingers you'd at least be able to get to that.
That's how I roll.
With your fingers?
Anyway, so today we are going to talk with Gina and Allison. We want to talk about women in bushcraft, women in the outdoors, because they will have a much more interesting and unique perspective on that than Christopher and I do. Obviously our perspective is sort of from the outside in, but you guys have that inside perspective.
Yeah, so I started researching what I wanted to do for what I lovingly am referring to as my late onset gap year. I'm a professional educator, and this is my 10th year, and instead of going into the classroom as a teacher, I decided to go into the outdoor classroom as a student this semester and really gain a lot of practical hands-on skills. I have a lot of knowledge about animals and plants and constellations and very little hands-on stuff. I was telling some other participants I was never even asked to mow the lawn as a kid. I have never wielded an axe until coming to Jack Mountain.
Wielded.
I like
that. Wielded.
And now I'm felling trees like a champ. So I think it was also very hard for some of my friends and family in the city. I'm from Cleveland and lived a long time in Chicago to wrap their head around the idea of why would I want to live outside for 9 weeks and go to bushcraft school. It's like, oh, are you going to become a doomsday prepper? Oh, are you going to go on naked and afraid? Like the idea that I might want to gain these skills for like my own personal and professional life was really hard to get in the heads of a lot of people.
I think that's a common thing that's the currency of our modern world, right? When I tell people what I do for a living, they're like, oh, so you're like, and then insert the name of bad TV show X, Y, or Z. Like, oh, are you going to go on, show whatever, Naked and Afraid? Full disclosure, I worked on Naked and Afraid for the first 3 years, so no, I'm never going on Naked and Afraid.
You've seen how the sausage is made.
I've seen the inside of the sausage factory. But it's just that whole bit about, like, if there's any motivation to do anything at all where it doesn't end up being on some really crappy TV show, right? It's pretty funny. So a little bit of background about Gina, who was just speaking. Public school teacher in Chicago for how many years?
For 8 years.
For 8 years, and then
I taught.
Took a break and went to Asia.
Yeah, so I had a Fulbright Award to teach in a teacher's training college in Laos for a year. And if there is any culture that is bushcrafting, it is the Lao culture. They are functional hunter-gatherers where they're hunting with spears and blowguns. They do a ton of improvised like yokes for their oxen and plows, and they're using old bombshells to post up their homes, and they do a ton with
that's awesome.
Yeah, with like weather and monsoons and carving their own boats, and it's a culture of improvisation, and it was really impressive to me. I was like, I want to know how to do this better and live with the land better, and here I am.
That's super cool. And you can't tell this from listening out there in podcast land, but Gina is a complete badass. To get to the field school, how did you get to Boston?
I flew to Boston.
Gina flew to Boston.
And boy, are my arms tight.
Oh, no. And after getting on the ground in Boston, opened up her luggage, put together her bicycle, and rode her bicycle from Boston to Masardis, Maine. So she rode her bicycle through the streets of downtown Boston.
And it was terrifying.
I'm terrified driving like a 2,000-pound hunk of metal that is a giant pickup truck through Boston. Like, I grip the wheel really hard, and I'm all nervous, and all these little cars are zooming around me. I couldn't imagine doing it on a bike. I think I'd be afraid if I was in like an old Sherman tank. I would still be terrified. But yeah, anyway, so that's Gina. She's like, yeah, I'll just ride my bicycle through the streets of Boston and then across New England up to the field school.
I had never been to Maine. I wanted to see what I was getting into.
No, I totally understand your sentiment, but just the idea of like, I feel like I'm sitting next to like
I would
the
have at
person
least
who
taken
won.
a cab to the outskirts of Boston. I couldn't have, no.
Anyway, cool. So, the motivation to come here, that's interesting. And obviously, as a professional educator, Christopher and I are obviously all in on thinking that learning bushcraft and learning something useful about the natural world around you is a huge asset to an educator. But it's interesting to hear your take on it. So that's very interesting. So we wanted to talk about the role of women in bushcraft or women in the outdoors, and before we hit the record button, Christopher was commenting. We have a mutual friend, Jenna Roselle, super badass woman who
Professional forager.
Professional
That's really
forager.
awesome. Yeah.
But what was she posted on her Instagram?
Yeah, I saw the other day. Or
if you're listening, Jenna, we hope you're doing well.
Yeah, definitely. I think it was yesterday, but I saw that she had. It was just a short little video clip of her walking through like the women's hunting section at some outdoor store, and it was all like frilly, lacy, pink camo. That for somebody that's actually like Jenna, that is actually out in the bush all the time doing this stuff. It's hideous. Like it has no real purpose other than. To sort of market to women that want to be quote unquote outdoorsy. And I just think it would be interesting to hear your guys' take, because like I wear the lacy underwear all the time.
You're wearing it right now. That's all you're wearing.
That's all I'm wearing right now. But yeah, I don't have to really think about that stuff all the time, and I can laugh and joke about it, but I don't deal with it on a day-to-day basis. So I would be curious to hear your guys' input on such frivolity.
I feel like when women are let into these more masculine lifestyles, we still get put in like a little box of pink and frills, and it just honestly doesn't surprise me, because it seems like that's just the way that the market flows. People just think that women need, weird scented pink paper, which I once found in a CVS. So, things really have gone strangely for us.
Yeah, not only is it ridiculous, it's somewhat offensive because it's non-functional.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how many times have I bought a pair of pants and I can't get my hands in the pockets or store anything there because they're women's cut and pockets are evidently very masculine items to have? I don't know. With all outdoor recreation, sure, maybe some things size-wise, like I'm 115 pounds and 5'3", I'm a small human, but that doesn't mean that I want to have something that is perfectly tailored. Oh, women's this, women's that. I would assume also that stuff costs more than
Probably so. I would imagine so, yeah.
the traditional camo stuff or just outdoor gear that should be unisex anyway, and that's like part of the pink tax. So you pay it twice, right? Yeah.
Pink tax. I've never heard that. I'm going to write that down.
So you pay more. Women end up paying more for marketing that's directed towards them. And then you also pay this like social tax for wanting to get in what you're saying, these like masculine ventures. Like I know that even signing up for Bushcraft school, I wanted to be absolutely sure there would be at least one other woman on the course. And I'm so happy that a third of us, 3 out of the 9 students, are women, which is so great. I didn't want to have to take on the burden of being the only female and having the only female's perspective among my fellow students. And I feel like our group has gelled very well, and it is not necessarily among gender lines, which I'm really happy about. It's not, I mean, you're wonderful, Allison. So is the other woman on our trip, but
You're
we're not
horrible, Christopher.
But we don't. But I don't feel compelled to stick in a girls' clique at all times.
Yeah, which is great. I mean, by design, and I think it's interesting to me. I was studying. Where did I read this? It was something about how kids clothing, right? Mm-hmm. Was it about 50 years ago? When was it? Right after World War II? All little kids' clothing was the same.
Dresses.
Mm-hmm. And and little boys wore dresses. Yeah. But the idea was...
I still wear dresses.
So the idea was... that you could... If you had... Say you had 10 kids. This is post-World War II. People had a lot of kids. You had 10 kids, you could hand down the clothing to the next kid, regardless of their gender, right? And then the clothing manufacturers said, wait, we're losing money here, so little girls need pink frilly things, and little boys need, like, blue masculine things. So
with
the whole
pockets.
Thing, yeah, with pockets.
Big, deep
Big
pockets. So my friend just had a little girl 2 days ago, and she did not find out the gender before having the baby, which is very uncommon. And a lot of her friends and family were upset with that decision because they wanted to buy the baby clothes. And she was like, it's fine. The baby, whatever gender will be, will wear the hand-me-downs from the big brother. And that is a very unpopular...
Hugely unpopular.
idea right now, is that, babies don't need to be, like, genderized and sexualized with frills and pink, and they can really just wear clothes.
Yeah, or, you're a baby, like crawling on my
Do they care?
The story, when I was a little kid, until I was a year old, whenever my mom would leave the house, and I don't remember this, I was told this, but my dad would turn my brother and I loose in the backyard. It had a little fence, no diaper, and then before he'd let us back in the house, he had the little gun on the hose, and he'd just, shoot off our butts, clean us off, and then we could come inside, so... Pretty classic. Probably would probably get the county called on him if he did that these days. But I can commiserate with your friend. So my firstborn, my oldest, we had 3 or 4 different ultrasounds, and they all said we were having a little girl, right? And I think they don't do that anymore now. It's like blood tape. They take blood and they can determine 100%. But this was like witchcraft. You'd go in there and it looked like an old TV that was not getting reception with rabbit ears, and the guy would be like, you see that? That's his arm. He's waving at you. And I'm like, I don't see anything. Anyway.
I think it's a magic eye. You have to, cross your
eyes
exactly.
and
see the picture.
So the So the big day comes, babies, here's the baby, and hey, those aren't little girl parts, those are little boy parts.
Hi, Andrew.
So thankfully I wouldn't allow, it was like, we're going to paint the room pink and we're going to do this and we're going to do that. And I said, no, we're not repainting anything. Like, let's just wait and see, because I didn't believe that ultrasound guy, and ultimately my skepticism was vindicated.
And that's when Tim became bitter.
Well, that really aided to my
it was the tipping
level
point,
of bitterness. Right? But we just kind of hijacked this and went down a different path. But
what else is new?
To get back to to women in bushcraft, neither of these women showed up here. Neither of you have an axe with that's the handle's pink and with tassels on the end. So thankfully we don't have to play those ridiculous games here. But the big retailers trying to serve a mass market, it just seems like that's what they're constantly pushing.
But there's also a big pushback right now to DIY stuff and live minimally and make your own clothes and grow your own food. And so I think there's a huge potential right now to get more and more women involved in bushcraft, maybe not under that term, but in a more homesteading kind of manner where people are interested in macrame and making their own soap or doing all kinds of things around their home that isn't buying stuff from big box stores. And I think that's a huge way into doing a lot of the crafting that we've been doing.
Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. Pinterest is full of things like that.
So that was another thought I had while I was thinking about this last night, just because you mentioned Pinterest, and I'm thinking of Instagram and stuff, is what do you guys think about the sort of, whenever I see photos on Instagram or wherever of women in the outdoors, they almost seem fabricated, you know what I mean? It's a very, there's a certain image that it seems like people are going through, which is true of Instagram in any way.
Almost seem fabricated?
Well, you know what I mean,
social
right?
media. It's 100% fabricated.
I hate to burst your bubble. They're staged.
I know, but that's what I mean. Do you think that I've never felt more misunderstood than this exact moment.
Okay, let's give it another shot. Let's circle back.
I don't think I will. No, but I just wonder what you think about that. Do you think that sort of thing keeps people? I know it does. I know it affects a lot of people that I know that are male and in this industry, where they talk about the layout of their pictures and everything's got to be a certain way. And I would just be curious to see what. Because for most of the male people that I see that do that, the men that I see that do this, it's about the right axe or the right. But for a lot of the ones I see that where women are online, it's the hair is always perfect and all that kind of thing. And how do we? I don't know.
Yeah, I washed my hair yesterday for the first time in almost 2 weeks. I know, right? Do you know about shampoo? Miracle product.
Look at me. Do I look like I know about shampoo?
So I'm really conscious of this because a lot of people think I live a very glamorous life, especially since I left public school teaching and have been traveling the world and working abroad and now taking class here. And so I try to post a combination of things. So I'll post beautiful vistas of where I'm cycling, what I'm doing. And then I also posted a picture of me doing laundry in a metal basin in a state park, saying it's not all glamorous. No. And a lot of it is just as sucky as all those suckers in the city, but
well done.
She's learning.
But the payoffs are so huge. Yesterday when we felled a tree and limbed it and made a one-match fire and cooked tea that we had foraged the ingredients for over a pot of Aroostook River water, that is so empowering, I guess, to say I couldn't do all of that 2 weeks ago and now I can, and I didn't take a picture of it. And so that's an interesting thing.
Did it happen?
I don't know. Did it? If you don't take a picture, post on Instagram.
Didn't happen.
Didn't happen. There's no proof.
We have when we're doing stuff in the field, we always talk about safety because safety is important, but ultimately we believe in safety last, right? Staged photo for Instagram first.
I thought it was
and
safety
last.
third. I thought it was staged photo for Instagram.
I can only count to 6. Remember,
Little
that.
Dan jokes, and then
Tertiary importance.
yeah, exactly.
So yeah, it is interesting. Just the idea.
Yeah,
It's not enough to go do it anymore. It has to be logged on social media to display our
In a way that makes it look like some easy thing that anybody can go do and still like not work hard to get there. That's kind of what I mean. Like,
And that's why when I post a picture of my spoon, people will be like, "Oh, cool, you carved it." And it's such a people do think things are easy, and then you show something that isn't perfect.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, this did take me like 6 hours to make. But there's
the internet tells you that it's awful, and then
yeah. Why would someone do that?
yeah.
Like, yeah.
why isn't the internet all like puppy dogs and rainbows and nice people?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It is kind of fascinating. Yeah, I had never thought of that, but yeah, the whole like gender difference in posting and Instagram.
Yeah, like the idea that, I don't know, women can't sweat, it seems like. You know
or
what I
like
mean?
you need to
Yeah,
put on eyeliner in the
like,
campsite so that you look like you
yeah,
have
so
your
that
face
when you post
on.
the picture, it looks like you walked out your back door. Whereas, like, to me, the appeal of this stuff is that you know, like we obviously made clear, I don't know about shampoo or soap. So, like, to me, the appeal is that I don't have to worry about this stuff when I'm on trail, and I can't really fathom what it would be like to because I don't even think about that stuff when we're out, but I can't fathom what it would be like to feel like you need to
So
be accepted.
yeah, I'm the exact opposite because I travel with a style team. So before the picture gets taken, you know, I have somebody check my hair, check my makeup, check my clothes.
Little Dan does not actually talk to you.
Yeah,
That's Little Dan.
yeah, our little doll that we bring with us on places.
And Tim talks to
Yeah. Anyway,
at night.
we'll talk about that later.
Yeah,
That's not for the
that's
podcast.
really not podcast territory.
Yeah, so I, for one, am just super excited that we have, as you guys are, that we have 3 women on the course. I'm the father of a young girl, and I love strong female role models for her of women who do things, women who, you know, they're not worried about their hair for their Instagram photo. They're more interested in, like, carving that spoon, swinging that axe, you know, or
Wielding.
Wielding. And I'm just excited for that, right? Like, I think that it's important for all young people to have good, solid role models that maybe aren't about flashy cars or, you know, the latest in fashion or whatever. That, you know, that excites me. That makes my heart fill with joy for the next generation. So good on you guys for that.
I also really... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I feel like there's something to be said where you can still be, like, feminine doing a masculine thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can still be, you know, swinging an axe, doing all your safety precautions, and still get all of your Instagram photos, which are priority number 1. You know, you can look good and do that, too, if that's something that you're interested in.
Yeah, the two aren't mutually exclusive by any means, but I just think maybe the motivation, I think, for some people is just to look good, right? And it's to look good when doing things. I mean, that's rule number 74 around here, is always look good when you're doing things, right?
Yeah, but it's the motivation. Are you looking good for yourself because you're proud of what you're doing, or are you looking good because you're getting external validation from your followers?
Yes, exactly. I think that's...
Yep. Succinct.
Nailed it. So we wanted to also just talk a little bit about education, and you know, I think you guys each have a unique perspective on education and kind of the role of what you're doing here and how that fits back into the bigger picture of education. So, for example, learning about the tangible, hands-on nature study, stars in the night sky, using them to navigate plants, identifying plants in the field and then eating them or using them for medicine. So things along that line. So in your experience in teaching in public school, was there any sort of nature education that was tangible or hands-on?
I'm a super huge component of experiential learning, no matter what field you're in, like taking kids on field trips and going places and doing things versus just learning about stuff. So while that was not a huge component at any of the schools I've taught at, I have taken kids down to Kentucky for a week, and we went through Mammoth Cave, and I've taken kids up into Canada and done a lot of history of the freed slaves going up into Canada and the routes that they took and how they navigated by the stars. And I think it really helps kids see the bigger picture. A lot of times you get tunnel vision in school where you're learning something in order to take a test rather than learning something to make the pie a little bit bigger, like in terms of your understanding of how the world works. And so I think there's a real gap between hard science that's taught in school and natural history, which is rarely ever taught in school. I think most people don't even know what anthropology or sociology is until they get to college, if they go to college and they have the luxury of studying those things. And I think that's too bad. As a kid, I was in a father-daughter YMCA program called Indian Princesses, and we did so much like Native peoples crafting and studying of historic ways of life and a bunch of camping, and I feel really grateful that I had that opportunity because it wasn't something I was ever going to learn in a public school setting.
So I would, Christopher has heard me rant from time to time about the public school, the younger kids will do a unit on the rainforest, but none of the kids nor any of the teachers know the names of the trees that are outside of the school, like in the schoolyard. And I was picking up my daughter from school, I think when she was in like first grade, and I heard one of the teachers like, don't eat those berries, they're poisonous. And it was a big cherry tree. So it was like a bunch of like pin cherries, and they're not poisonous. They're actually pretty good.
But they were red, so it was
they were red.
Don't eat me.
Yeah. So
yeah, I had a community garden at the last high school I taught at, and a lot of kids didn't know how did a tomato grow or how did a pepper grow or had never dug in the dirt. And so and even those small things can help build a kid's understanding of where does our food come from? How does nature do all the cool shit it does? Like produce all of these amazing medicinal and edible plants for us that, fuels everything.
That's really awesome. My sister, when she was in college, she went to kind of a rural college sort of near the swamp. It was really far removed, but they had a place called the Food Forest, and it was like 10 acres of just all like edible plants. Like they had curated this forest over years and years and years.
That is so awesome.
It is really awesome. They would take the kids through, and you could just pick stuff off, and these kids' face would light up. They had something called miracle berries. Have you ever heard of these?
No.
You eat them, and then everything you eat afterwards is sweet.
Like changes your taste buds.
Yeah, and that's magic for a kid to see that.
Or for an adult, I would think that was magic.
Yep, definitely.
Yeah.
I'm just learning about this now. Like no one thought I should be briefed on this miracle berry up till this point. Up until September 1st, 2018, I've spent how many years running around this planet not knowing about miracle berries? I'm so pissed right now.
Well, remember when you traded your wife's cow for magic beans?
Yes.
Yeah, miracle berries, that's what those were.
Oh.
You didn't know?
I don't know.
You didn't try them, you just put them in the ground.
Right.
Well,
next time you'll save one.
And it wasn't a cow, it was a car.
Of course it was.
I traded your car for 3 magic beans. And that's why I live in a shack in northern Maine by myself.
But so as far as the educational thing, another thing that I've kind of noticed teaching up here over the last couple of years is how much easier stuff is when there is that gender balance. Like, you guys, like your whole group meshed really well, but when I was a student, it was 12 guys, and it got pretty cultish pretty quickly. And I just wonder. I would just be curious about your guys' thoughts on that too, because I've noticed a visible difference when it is like an age gaps and gender sort of mixes together on these courses.
Yeah, it's really great because we've really stratified our lives in modern society in ways that humans have never really existed before, where you're really only interacting with people in your age band. Mm-hmm. And in this course, we have people who run the gamut from age 18 to 40, which is great, all interacting, doing the same coursework. And then we have, three women and 6 men. And I think it's been really great. And I've never felt really patronized. I've never felt like I couldn't do the work. And I've always felt like everyone acknowledges each other's strengths and weaknesses. So I'm super organized and good at taking notes.
You?
I
No,
know, right?
not
I know
a
you
chance.
never guessed that. And so I can
Gina takes notes with watercolors. Like she has this notebook where she's been taking all these notes over the last 2 weeks. And I looked over at one point and she was watercoloring in it. And that's a level of, I don't want to call it neuroses, but
I've taught fine arts for 5
fair
years.
enough, fair
That
enough.
is my happy place.
I get it.
We're happy when people write anything down.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. Like so far, my experience has been like somebody handing me a notebook to check off on, and it's like, it'll be a food log, and it'll be like a piece of pizza, and then they won't write anything for 3 weeks, and then hand it to me, and then yours is like color coded, and there's pictures in it, and it's way above what I feel capable of reviewing.
Old habits die hard.
Yeah.
Good habits. That's funny.
But yeah, I just thought that the age range and gender differences were interesting because I think that's probably how humanity lived for a long time, and I think it just
it takes a village, right?
Yeah,
It was
exactly.
like everyone kind of separating into the skill set that they're great at and like living communally and helping to raise children and helping to build shelters for each other. Like that is like the basis for the family system, is this like extended family community,
right,
where everyone is contributing, versus where a lot of Americans don't even know their neighbors and they're living in a very isolated space where they're interacting with their immediate family, the friends they choose, the online community they choose to be a part of. It's really nice to also branch out. We have people from Texas, from Canada, from Alaska, from South Carolina. I'm from the Midwest. You're from Florida. It's nice to also see like different regional and like cultural names for plants or types of food that people eat, or different people. Some people are from the military, some have just gotten out of high school. It's super diverse, and that means everyone can be a bushcrafter, however old or young or whatever gender you are. Like, we're all here doing it.
Definitely. I think that's not the point of the course here, but it's like, I think I wrote something a while ago that community isn't the purpose of us coming together, but it is the result, right?
It just
like
happens.
If you can't function in that community setting, this isn't a good place for you.
Yeah.
And it's not that every day we start the day with a talking stick and everybody's telling me about your feelings every morning. It's not that at all, but it's just, part of the process of living together in a remote area as a small group is we need to make sure that everybody in the community feels safe and feels like it's a place where they can achieve what they're here to achieve.
Yeah, it's interesting to me that other schools and stuff, the talking stick is an ongoing joke up here, but that's a real thing that other schools do. But because of
I picked up hundreds of sticks in my life, none of them have talked.
Right.
Not one.
But I hate when you do this. But no, I think that it is the talking stick exists when you try to. It's a very contrived way to get people to communicate as a group. But I think just the nature of what we're doing up here makes that happen anyway, and I think that's really interesting. I had a whole sentence about this that was well thought out, and then you had to make a joke.
I'm not joking. Find me a stick that talks.
I get that you're not wrong, but it doesn't.
Does anyone remember Stick Stickly from Nickelodeon?
No.
He was like a little tongue depressor that was like a host on Nickelodeon that would tell you what shows were coming up next. He talked.
I've never met him. He's never been here.
What is happening?
Oh boy!
Why does it always happen?
I don't know. Saturday morning, we're just
hyper caffeinated, talking about talking sticks.
Hyper caffeinated, little fatigue.
Definitely fatigued.
Yeah.
I wasn't until you made that joke, and now I'm exhausted.
It's not a joke.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So anyway, let's. Anything else to discuss this morning?
You guys? Nothing.
Next time I'm going to interview you for my podcast.
That'd be great. Love to do it.
Yeah.
Happy to do it.
Yeah, so you can be on Saturn Returns podcast, and we'll flip the script.
I like it. And yeah, we'll cross post that to the Jack Mountain podcast as well, or at least put a link or something.
Cool.
Some way, somehow. But again, thank you, everybody, for being here this morning. And for those of you out in podcast land, if you found this episode useful, please leave us a review or tell somebody about it. Help spread the word. And we'll hit you back. We're going to try to maintain this 2 podcast a week thing throughout this semester. So it'll only be a few days before you hear from us again. So hope everybody has a great day. Thank you for listening.